The U.S. imposes a blockade on Iran. How does it work and will it be effective? And what does it mean for the ceasefire and peace negotiations? To explain, Fox News analyst General Jack Keane is here. General, welcome. The Iranians have mined the Strait of Hormuz. We know we have minesweepers there. We know that the president has a main goal, which is to prevent the Iranians from selling any oil, basically to drive them into bankruptcy. My question from a strategic point of view is, how do we enforce this and at the same time keep our Navy safe?
Yes, well, there are two phases in this operation, and you're seeing the first phase now, which is the blockade itself. And the way this is working is that CENTCOM has established a radio communication network for all ships trying to leave or arrive. In the Gulf region, we will communicate with them, and as you indicated, if their intention is to take Iranian oil and/or transport it out, they are not allowed to do that. And we will tell them where they should stop. If they test us, that is, if they come from the north, probably from Karg Island, and want to sail through the strait and are not following CENTCOM's instructions, then we will board that ship. And most likely we will do this with Marines from helicopters, or we can also do this from a ship. The fact is, General, sorry, people won't be able to get that oil out of there. That's how this blockade will work. But here's the other part of the issue, and that's why a second phase is necessary. Remember that the merchant ships aren't coming, since non-Iranian ships are now allowed to enter, and we'll see. After 24, 48 hours, if they haven't come, they probably won't come. And why is that? Because of Iran's intimidation and coercion in the past, they were threatened, so they still might not want to move. In the second phase of this operation, the president ordered Admiral Cooper to clear the Strait of Hormuz. As mentioned in the introduction, ships have already been working over the weekend to remove mines from the area. In addition, underwater drones are trying to identify mines that the Iranians have planted. They are loose and they've lost total control over them. Once that's done, we need to ensure security and also provide escorts through the Strait of Hormuz. This will take time, but it will prevent any intimidation or coercion that Iran might still exert over the owners of the merchant ships. They don't want to send the ships there, they don't want to lose their crews, and they certainly don't want to lose the ship. There are two phases in this operation. And when we start the escort operation, at some point, we will transfer it to allies and partners. And there are enough allies gathering to participate. Despite their initial reluctance, they are finally getting involved in this. And this will happen over time. Now, if the negotiations work out and Iran is willing to agree to everything, and remember, President Trump said everything. And look, I have total confidence here in what I call the final authority. And that final authority is President Trump. He is the final authority here. No one on our side will finalize any deal on the details without consulting him, and he will make sure he's getting everything he wants here. And he has made that clear over and over again, once again. So I have confidence in that. And part of that, if there is an agreement, would be that Iran would allow transit. And remember two things here. Iran may allow ships to transit, but they can't control that. They don't decide who passes through there or when, and no fees are charged. They must pull back completely. The United States also pulls back at some point, and the Strait of Hormuz remains open under international law with free passage and no control. That is the ultimate goal. Thank you.
It seems to me, General, that this would be achievable for the U.S. Navy, especially because we are not going to create a blockade where the Strait of Hormuz, at its narrowest point, is 24 miles wide. That would make our ships a relatively easy target. We wouldn't give them that so-called moral victory. The moment we decide, we'll board any ship carrying Iranian oil, probably the one from Cargill. And I believe you must be right about that. The blockade won't put the U.S. Navy at risk. Regarding the main point of contention, we have the 460 kilos of enriched uranium. I've received confusing messages from very intelligent people. Some say we've had eyes on it the whole time. There's no need to go in there and extract if they don't deliver. We can bury it even deeper to make it even harder for them to get close to it. What are your thoughts? I know the president said weeks, not months, for this conflict to finally come to an end. Do you still see that as possible, even if the blockade remains in place?
That is totally achievable, and it's something that needs to be achieved. That wasn't through negotiation. Look, I don't believe for a minute that President Trump would leave office and just let it happen. 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium, capable of enrichment up to 60%, capable of being a dirty bomb today if it were used. That's a conventional bomb with radium. Radiation associated with it, and with the potential to be weaponized very quickly. I don't believe President Trump would even consider leaving office after that. He's going to get it out of there one way or another. He's going to get it either through negotiations or by other means, which is through Cargalon itself. 90% of all their oil distribution goes through Cargalon. Right now, none of that is working. At some point, we can say to the Iranians, listen, you let us in and remove the highly enriched uranium from there. We will do it ourselves and make sure it is removed, or you will lose Cargalon. Either we take full control of it or we will blow everything up. And that is undoubtedly coercion and intimidation. I'm absolutely convinced that President Trump will not leave radioactive dust there where we keep watch. And if they move, we have to go in and carry out airstrikes, and those strikes could continue periodically. I don't see that as a possibility, nor that in an agreement they would allow any kind of enriched uranium, not even low grade. Why? Because they lie and cheat and it adds up. We've already seen this happen with these guys. When dealing with Iranians, the president and his team know these guys are liars and cheaters. And that's been their modus operandi for almost 50 years, and they're masters at it. But now they're on the defensive. That's visible in the negotiations. Sean, I think they underestimated where President Trump really stands. With the ceasefire and the end of the war because of the Strait of Hormuz, I thought they believed that the United States was in a weakened position and that in negotiations they would give in to our will and let us do whatever we want. But President Trump said, no way, we're not going to do any of that at all. While they're negotiating, he sails 2 ships through the Strait of Hormuz on their first crossing to eventually clear out the whole area. And then we saw what happened right after. That means ordering the blockade itself. Now they know who they're dealing with. If they had any doubt at all, they know exactly who they're dealing with. He won't be intimidated.
He said they need to know they're the next targets, even if they're from the 4th or 5th tier. General Keane, it's always a pleasure to have you here. We appreciate your analysis.
Thank you.